Should have said something about that.
What happened to Crumb and Skinny, or whatever?
Bulk and Skull? They're just not in the movie. Power Rangers is directed by Dean Israelite, who also directed Project Almanac, and it stars Bryan Cranston as Zordon, Elizabeth Banks as Rita Repulsa, and a bunch of new-ish actors as the Power Rangers, such as Dacre Montgomery as Jason the Red Ranger, Naomi Scott as Kimberly the Pink Ranger, R.J. Cyler as Billy Cranston the Blue Ranger, Ludi Lin as Zach the Black Ranger, and Becky G as Trini the Yellow Ranger. And yes, that's Trini, not Trini, for some strange reason.
So if you haven't seen Power Rangers yet, this is the line we draw. Otherwise, you're going to be spoiled. Because this is a spoiler alert.
When a group of high schoolers discover these, what they're called power coins in a rock quarry, they find that they're slowly changing and they're getting more powerful and they can jump really far. And they eventually stumble upon the command center where they find Zordon of Eltar is kind of being kept alive by his robot companion Alpha 5, and he tells them that they're all the new Power Rangers and they must stop Rita Repulsa, who was a former Ranger with Zordon, and she's looking for what's called a Zeo crystal that resides underneath a Krispy Kreme in downtown Angel Grove.
While looking for this crystal, she is looking also for gold to make Goldar to be able to dig up the crystal. And if she gets her hands on it, all life on Earth will cease to exist. Now, I think our audience should know that I absolutely hated the Power Rangers growing up. I thought they were scary, fake. I did not enjoy watching them. Of course, I still enjoyed playing them every once in a while. I can remember doing the whole but I didn't really know what that was.
Now me, I grew up loving the Power Rangers. Me and my friends would always be playing, and we'd be fighting over who would be the Red Ranger and eventually who would be the Green Ranger. And growing up with the Power Rangers, I saw the original movie and I loved it until I got a little older and just turned out to be kind of not so good, and the next one was a piece of garbage. But this one, I had some mid-range expectations, and I liked this movie as a Power Rangers fan, and you know, it lived up to some expectations and exceeded others.
Now, I really enjoyed the opening of the movie because it gave a lot of backstory for the non-Power Ranger fans with Zordon, who I had no idea. I knew he was the face, but I didn't know he was an actual Power Ranger. And then him burying the crystals and everything, I thought it was pretty good. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they were in the dinosaur era, everything was very well explained for a non-fan, but also not, I don't think it was too much for somebody who might have been a fan of it before.
And being a fan of the show, it was really nice to see them explain the past, much better. Because in the show, you're just kind of thrown into this world where Rita escapes and is like, oh, hey, Rita is an enemy of Zordon's and we have to recruit teenagers with attitude and fight her. But this movie really dives deep into the mythos of the Power Rangers, and even going as far as to make Rita the original Green Ranger, which I thought was a great touch. And again, being a fan of the show, I know that the Green Ranger eventually becomes a thing. So I'm excited for a sequel, which we'll get to later.
When we first come upon these group of teenagers, some of them know each other from school, but others of them, they're not really friends. They're just kind of separated. But I thought that they did a really good job of bringing them together and developing a certain fundamental base for them being the Power Rangers. I think they took their time with it. There are some parts that were a little flat and boring in terms of character development, but in terms of setting up the basis for what the Power Rangers are, I think they did a really good job of taking their time with showing their powers developing, showing them becoming friends, showing them interacting with one another, all of that.
Yeah. They definitely took the teenagers with attitude line a little more literal in this movie, which I appreciated. But in my opinion, I would have liked to have seen more development with the characters Trini, well, I grew up calling her Trini. In this movie, she's called Trini. I have no idea why they changed that. It's a small thing. But Trini and Zach, I wanted more development with their characters. And we do get some, but not as much as Jason, Kimberly, and Billy. They get a lot more story than the other two. And that I thought was kind of unfair because if you're going to do the majority of the Power Rangers, why not just do all of them with the amount of backstory?
And then other parts of their interactions with each other are just very canned. Yeah. There's not a whole lot of realism to their dialogue. It's just kind of, this is what I'm expected to say, so I'm going to say it. But of course, I didn't expect much because it's the Power Rangers.
Yeah. And I was actually surprised by how good the acting was. It was much better than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be a cringe fest because I saw a few of the clips that they released, in particular the one where Zach gets into his Zord a little early than he should have. And it just, even in the movie, it was pretty bad when he's yelling and freaking out. That was really cringy, but it still worked more so in the movie than in the clip alone. But the acting, for the most part, was way better than I thought it was going to be.
And I did feel like there was at certain points where the story wasn't quite sure where it was going. They seemed to be, I liked the development they took at the beginning, but then sort of they kept with it in a weird way, and it was like, okay, they're just kind of at a standstill, and then all of a sudden Rita's there, and then everything happens all at once, and then it's the end. You know, they kind of dragged out the ending a little bit too. Yeah. So, just because of all the things, it's like, are they coming back? Are they not coming back? Oh, Billy dies. Is he coming back?
Yeah, I want to talk about that Billy death fake out scene right quick. In the scene where we talked about earlier, when they're swimming down to that pocket through the water, they held their breath for a minute, almost 2 minutes or something. When he drops into the water and he's all chained up, he's in the water for maybe 30 seconds, maybe 40 at most, and he's already drowned. So why, I don't get how he was able to hold his breath for so long before and then not as long after. And another thing is, CPR can save somebody's life after they drown, you know? They didn't even try. They just, oh, he's dead. And that's it. It's like, no, you know what? We're going to take him to Zordon and maybe he'll fix it. And of course, somehow he does because the morphing grid opens up and only one can return.
Because they connected. Didn't you get that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I really love Elizabeth Banks as Rita Repulsa. She's creepy and scary, and she's got a really good yelling voice that you just, because that's kind of what I remember from Power Rangers. It was the most annoying part to me. It's like, why is she yelling all the time in that high, raspy, screechy voice? And Elizabeth Banks made it cool.
Her laugh was pretty good, too.
Yeah, and her character, she just really plays that creeper really, really well when she's getting up close to people and touching their face and things like that. And not only that, her costume was pretty awesome.
It was.
I liked her evolution from the weird alien shriveling thing to what she becomes in the end.
I did really appreciate that Zordon was getting frustrated and angry, because in the show, as far as I remember, he was always just monotone, like, Rangers, you must do this, and destroy Rita, Goldar's back, Scorpina, or whatever the other monsters' names that Rita made. A character that I thought was going to be super annoying, and I thought the voice talent and the casting was the worst choice possible, turned out to be one of my favorite aspects of the film, and that's Bill Hader as Alpha 5. I thought it was a good choice.
It was enjoyable. I thought he was going to be annoying at first too, but it was actually really tasteful in the way he was interacting and showing them everything. He wasn't like the annoying robot that you normally see.
And his comedic moments were well placed. And of course, as I wanted it. They did the I once, and it was well placed, because in the show that was Alpha's thing that he always did, and it got annoying, but it was well done in this for sure.
In terms of their training, I thought that's where they fell really flat.
Yes.
I don't know how you do that in a week's time. It kind of showed the passing of time with Jason scratching the walls with tally marks, and they were like, "Oh, you have to be trained in 11 days before Rita does this." I don't know how they could gauge that, but
yeah.
And then when they're not able to morph into their armor, it's like you're putting them up against these rock creature simulations.
The putties.
And I don't understand how you can possibly teach them karate and whatever other ninjutsu moves,
in 11 days.
Whatever type of style of fighting you can do in 11 days. I mean, I get the whole street fighting thing, but that's totally different.
Yeah. I have to say, the training, as much as I liked it, it was dragged on a little too long, in my opinion. And that's my biggest gripe about the movie, is they only morph once. And I know a lot of people were afraid that they were only going to morph once, and after seeing all the previews, we're like, oh, maybe they'll morph multiple times. But it is only one time, and that was very disappointing to me. And it was only because they had to, pretty much. It was like, well, it's day 11, you know, Billy just came back to life, and we're all connected now because of Billy and him coming back to life. And I thought they should have morphed once or twice before that and had a few skirmishes with the putties.
Although they didn't have to use the physical fighting training very much.
No.
But they did use the robot creatures.
Zords.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, these kids probably don't even, I mean, they drive in the movie a little bit, but I'm like, they've probably only been driving for maybe a few years, 2 years at most, not even. And
they picked up on those
things, which Kimberly was a freaking pilot in this pterodactyl thing. I'm like, no, you would not be able to fly that thing. Now, it was cool, but no. And then in terms of them only morphing once, they only morph once, and then when they get into the Zords, their face helmet comes up, and all you see is their face from then on, and I'm like, I didn't want to see their face anymore.
Yeah.
I'd already seen it throughout the rest of the movie. Like, now I want to see the Power Rangers fighting Rita Repulsa because they built it up to that. And then it's like, oh, nope, we're just going to look at their face again.
Yeah.
And
their suits are awesome looking.
They needed to have seen them.
I wanted so much more of the suits.
Yeah. Those things look pretty uncomfortable with the face. Like, it's got the widow's peak thing. I'm like, ooh, that'd be stabbing me if I'm trying to pilot this thing or looking. Yeah, I just
stab you in the eye. I do have to say the Zords were pretty awesome, and I thoroughly enjoyed that scene when they first morph and you get that song. It sounded a little like Stranger Things, but then they kind of jump out of the water and they go and get the Zords, and then when the Zords are running toward the city, they played the Power Rangers theme song from the original movie, which was amazing. They played that so amazingly well. And I just had like nostalgia overload at that point. It was awesome.
You were like, yeah!
I was. I don't know, she probably looked at me because I was just smiling ear to ear. And we were the only two in the theater, so I should have just screamed, yeah.
And see, for a non-fan, I just kept waiting for him to say it's Morphin time, because that's all you hear. It's Morphin time. And he only said it once, which was good.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a little misplaced. I kind of wish that it was a little sooner or something had to be. I don't know.
See, that's why I think they should have morphed at least once before so that he could say that again, like, at the moment that they really need it.
Are trying to read
like, and it's cool because it's like, it's time to morph again type of thing. One thing that confuses me is, do they have to always be in the command center to morph? Or can they do that wherever? Because Billy kind of did it when he was stopping Jason and Zach from fighting.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about Zordon's face, because that was another one of those huge pet peeves of mine watching the show. It's like, I hated watching it. It made me so disgusted. I was just like, what is this? It's a superimposed face in a tube, and his mouth never matches with the words he's speaking, and I can't even watch. And I really liked in the movie how it was actually Bryan Cranston's face. You could see him, and it was like, good, he's got some screen time. 'Cause you could tell it's his voice. And him just being able to like zoom around the room is really cool, to talk to each of them. And then just the look of it was very, very cool to me. I wasn't expecting that.
So I want to talk a little bit about the nods to the original series. There were only a few of them, but what they lacked in quantity, they made up in quality, I think. For starters, we have Rita Repulsa saying, "Make my monster grow," when she's creating Goldar, which he was the first monster that the Power Rangers fought in the original pilot, I think. And
Special effects for him were awesome.
they were
Melting
incredible.
gold was amazing.
And of course, you got the I from Alpha, which we talked about earlier. But then at near the end, I think it was right after they defeat Goldar, they're showing all these people of Angel Grove, and they focus on these two people wearing green and pink, and those are the original Tommy and Kimberly, respectively, Jason David Frank and Amy Jo Johnson. And that was just so cool to see them in a new Power Rangers movie. After they slap Rita into outer space, if you're paying attention, she's flying toward the moon. And in the original series, her secret base is on the moon. So they're setting it up for a sequel. And then, as I definitely wanted them to do, they set up the possibility for the Green Ranger. They pretty much kind of threw it in your face, like, hey, they did kind of this Ferris Bueller type of thing, where the teacher's like, Tommy Oliver, because he's doing roll call or whatever, and they show this desk, and of course there's a green sweatshirt on the back of the chair, and this is the mid-credit scene. There is no post-credit scene. And when I saw that, I kind of geeked out a little bit. Like, yes, they're doing it. I still wanted a post-credit scene to hint at the potential of Lord Zed, who was like even worse than Rita Repulsa, but they didn't do that, which again, I thought that was a missed opportunity. And I think that's about all the nods to the original. There may have been some more. If you guys saw some that we didn't see, let us know.
But it was a little anticlimactic when she just kind of slapped that into outer space and then freezes again. I'm like, how does she, I don't understand all of this, especially when she has powers to like create creatures out of the earth.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just didn't seem quite enough when they beat her, just to slap her out of the air.
Yeah. I have two more complaints, one involving the Megazord. I did not like how they showed them transforming into the Megazord, because it was all just close up on tiny little parts of it kind of coming together, and I thought they should have showed like the whole thing come together. Obviously they didn't know about that, because that's like a detail that Zordon didn't feel like they needed to know for some strange reason. Like, oh, by the way, if you're ever in a lot of trouble, you can combine your Zords to form this bigger Zord to take on a bigger enemy. But that's not important right now. Just go fight. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen the whole transformation.
I did, though, appreciate the fact that they actually were trying to figure out who did what.
Yes.
Like, it was like, oh, Megazord, cool, they have a bigger creature, awesome. And then I thought it was funny that when they're trying to walk, they just fall flat on their face.
Yes. Like, wait, who's controlling the legs?
Because they're not taking themselves too seriously, which I enjoyed.
Yes. And I liked the fact that they weren't all in one room that magically appears. They were still in their each individual cockpits controlling different parts of the Zord, like you just said. And one little nitpick, again, that I have is they spent so much time working on the title screen for the trailers, for the posters, all the promotional stuff. And then in the movie, at the beginning, you just get like it's a subtitle in the bottom right of the screen. Like, oh, it's Power Rangers. I don't appreciate that, because when movies do that, like Kong did, that we talked about a couple weeks ago, Avengers did that, and a bunch of other movies do that, and I don't know, that bothers me, because the graphic artists spent so much time working on those, put that in the movie. They put it at the end, but it wasn't like the official logo that they were showing on all the promotional stuff. So that just kind of, that bothers me.
So generally, I really liked this movie. As a movie, I enjoyed watching it. Got a little long at the end, and I was like, is this going to be over yet? But all in all, I enjoyed it. I also thought it was really cool how they could take such a stupid concept to me and make it worth watching. So for that, I give Power Rangers a B-.
As a Power Rangers fan, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. And putting nostalgia aside, as of just a movie, it's still pretty enjoyable. And the CGI is fantastic. The acting is, for the most part, pretty good. I thought the casting was brilliant. However, it was kind of a slow burn movie. It was a long build up to an anticlimactic ending. So I have to dock it a few points. But I give Power Rangers a B+. It could have been better. There were some missed opportunities. But overall, I really did enjoy this movie.
So we want to know what you think. Did you like it, love it, or hate it? Let us know in the comment section below.
And if you like this video, be sure to give it a big ol' thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you hit that bell icon next to the subscribe button so you can be notified of when we upload new content. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.